Sunday, October 18th, 2020, you are listening to the Inquisitive Bro podcast. On today's episode, NHL free agency is well underway, and the least better not be done, because Old Man Joe is not going to be enough. I'm telling you right now, we're going to need more help. To help break it all down, all the moves going on in the NHL right now, we've got Karn back in the studio. Karn, Leafs over or under one playoff series win this year?
I'm going with the over today, or this year.
I like the confidence. You're wrong, but I like the confidence. And for the first time...
What do you mean he's wrong?
He's wrong. The Leafs
right.
first round exit. That's all we do every year. We're coming back with the same team, same result.
Jimmy VC is taking us to the promised land.
Okay, finish your intro.
This is my intro. And for the first time in studio, your friend and mine, all the way from Greece. We haven't even started yet, and he's already angry. Steve Minikakis is here. Buddy, what's good?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
He's a lot angrier than that. Wait till we get him fired up. We're going to talk a little hockey, and we're going to wrap up with some LBJ championship talk. I'm Andrew. He's Chris. Let's go. All right, boys. Tampa, bringing the cup down to Florida, the coronavirus state. Most cases across the country, but they're bringing home the cup. Pretty good.
I like how when they won it, they were having, during the parade, they actually had people like drinking from the cup. Like, you got to keep that tradition going, right? Like, it doesn't matter what's happening in the real world. You got to have like the random fans drinking from the cup.
There is no state that cares less about what's going on in the world than Florida. Florida lives by their own rules.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if any state had to win, it had to be Florida. Florida man reigns supreme.
Karn, Steve, did you guys think Tampa was the rightful champion?
Yeah, I always thought the Lightning were going to win in the last couple of years, and they didn't. So it's kind of this the story that needed to end in that way, that the Lightning were going to win the cup.
Wait, hold up. You thought a couple years ago Lightning were going to win, so you're clearly lying. Steve, did you think Tampa was going to win this year?
Yeah, no, they've been by far the best team in probably the last 2-3 seasons. Yeah. Like when you have when your top guys get injured,
they're the greatest dynasty that hadn't won until this year. Like, they literally killed it. They're like in college basketball, like Virginia, who was number one and lost the 16th seed.
Yeah.
Then they came back and won the college basketball championship the very next year. Same thing with the Lightning. Lost to Columbus in the first round. Absolute swept. Yeah.
You get this chip on your back where you're just like,
I think they actually got swept because they also saw the replay of John Tortorella's like pregame speech, game one. And like, fuck, he really outdid us there.
I remember they were up 3-0 in the first period or something that game last year, and after that just completely collapsed. Never won again. Didn't even. I don't think they even led after that period.
Well, it didn't help that Hedman was hurt.
Yeah, that's true.
Conn Smythe winner, like, it helps when he's actually healthy. But no, like, Andrew, to like answer your point, like, the Lightning have been amazing the past like 4 to 5 years, and this is just the culmination of what has been like a great run for them. And frankly, if you had to put the over under of like cup wins, I would have put like 1.5.
Over how many years? Well,
like this core of like Kucherov, freaking Stamkos, Braden Point, Hedman, Vasilevsky. Like, these guys are absolute studs. It reminds me kind of like if you look back to the early 2000s, like Red Wings, where it's like, oh my God, all these Hall of Famers. Same shit with the Tampa Bay Lightning. When you look back at this Lightning team, you're gonna think about like some of these guys, be like, wow, look how many all-timers they had.
But they've had some good, like, the Lightning franchise as a whole has had some good all-timers. Like, last time they were relevant was like the Le Cavalier St. Louis days.
Well, that was the last time they won a cup.
Yeah, that was the last time they were relevant.
They've been relevant before with this like cohort, a group, but yeah, they took a step back, then had to like draft Steven number 1 overall, Hedman number 2, and they're right back at it. But good for them. I think it's kind of like the Lakers winning the NBA championship, where if the NHL had to choose a team to win, where it's like, is there going to be an asterisk? At least it was a team that fans know, respect. This is a good team. Like, this has always been a good team, and I don't think there's going to be any asterisks on that. What do you guys think, Karn and Steve?
Yeah, no asterisk for me. I think this playoff series showed how lethal someone like Nikita Kucherov is. I think it solidifies him as a top 5 Russian player of all time as well.
I actually have a point on that. I will not jump the lead on that. I actually had like something about like him being a top 5 Russian, but go for it, Steve. What do you think?
Yeah, but they've done it without Stamkos. Like, even for the majority of the last few seasons, how many games has Stamkos even played over the last, 3 years are we talking about?
He's definitely injury prone.
Like, he hasn't been around. And, he comes, he scores that goal, and that's it. A 3-minute shift, and they still get it done, right? So
Okay, so I want to actually jump on then that Game 3 goal. Steven Stamkos, for that, he joins a very elite list of storied stars who make one very unique moment in the finals when they're injured. He joins Willis Reed in 1970, the finals of Game 7 in the NBA, who made the first 2 shots in the NBA finals for the New York Knicks, and then he went off the court because he tore his quad.
Yeah.
And they won the championship.
Willis.
And also Kirk Gibson, walk-off home run for the Dodgers in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. 2 torn quads. Steven Stamkos, great with them.
I wasn't paying attention. What is this list?
This is a list of storied stars who had one singular moment in a finals for their sport, and they ended up winning it. Kirk Gibson and Willis Reed. Steven Stamkos joins that list.
Okay, I like it. So you're saying stars with an injury?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Had to be stars with an injury.
Remember when Paul Pierce had to take a dump and they wheeled him in a wheelchair out? And they
You mean when Paul
back
Pierce
in?
shit his pants?
Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah, but he came back the same game, and then Game 2, guess what? He was great. He was fine. This is a completely different context. Steven Stamkos played 1 game in the series, played 5 minutes, scored a goal.
It was crazy. I'm looking at a picture of Steven Stamkos right now. It looks like every piece of his face has been broken at some point.
Well, he's a hockey player, so probably.
His nose is a Z.
As any good hockey player's nose is. What, you're supposed to breathe in that thing? No, that's for taking punches and pucks.
What did you guys think of the bubble? So half the games were in Edmonton, right? And half were in Toronto?
yeah.
Did you guys even notice watching the game? I know basketball was a little bit different. I think because the court is a little bit closer to fans. Did you guys any different watching? Did you even know if fans were gone?
For me, it felt like the same. I think it was probably the least noticeable for me in hockey. With basketball, you kind of feel it more. Like you said, you see the fans on the court half the time, right? With hockey, it just looked like a regular game. It was very intense. You saw a lot of fights too. There was a lot of fighting, more than usual. I think.
Well, the camera angle for hockey is always on the ice anyway, so I think baseball is lacking the most because baseball is such a sedimentary sport. So in between pitches, usually they're just watching some fat ass eating a hot dog in a weird way, but instead they're like, oh, it's empty here. Hockey, it's just it's all action. I want to jump on this, I guess. The one time I did notice the lack of fans was when they actually awarded the cup.
Yeah.
It was just dead silent.
Nothing different from winning in an away stadium, though.
No, but there's still people there, and there's always the family. Also, Tampa had that really weird celebration with instead of Steven the captain going solo with Gary, they brought the entire team. Steve, what do you think about that? That was kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, Stamkos to even be there.
Stamkos in his plain clothes.
Yeah.
Jersey and jeans.
Hey, Forsberg did that in 2001. It was a big moment, though. So
That's a great look, the jersey and jean look.
Yeah,
I got
jersey
no
and
problem with
jeans.
that.
I don't actually think he had jeans. I'm pretty sure he was wearing full hockey gear, but
That's even weirder in my opinion. Just suiting up for the cup lift.
when you want the photo, I mean, you want to look in hockey gear. The thing is, I guess you're missing the fans though. There weren't the same boos for Gary.
Well, there was another thing too. Was aside from that, yeah, but another thing too was I heard a lot of the players. There was the audio sound that was pumped through the speakers had a weird delay on some of the things. So guys are going in and hitting the post or something, and it was really distracting to them. I did hear that a fair bit in terms of the no fans there. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that, but that's interesting. Yeah, I mean the pumped-in noise is definitely hit or miss.
They're trying to put an artificial thing to make an authentic feel, and it's just not doing the right job.
Sounds
right?
like my Bud Light goal horn from Budweiser. The 5-second delay, I hate that thing. It's
5 seconds. That's
atrocious.
good. It's like a 5-minute delay.
I don't know what you're complaining about. It's awesome. You get to celebrate, and then 5 seconds later, you get to celebrate again.
Yeah.
Sounds great to me. I don't know.
But one thing I want to say about the Tampa winning this is that, I mean, this has obviously been a great team for a long time, and all hockey fans know that. But in terms of a storyline, historical point of view, this really puts to bed any questions about some of the top Lightning guys about whether they can win or not. This is always now they can essentially die in peace. Steven Stamkos is no longer just first overall pick, great goal scorer who couldn't win. Now he can finish the rest of his career, and he's going to get over 500. He actually might get over 600 goals. Currently, he's at 422 79th all time. He's like just over half a goal per game. So like 1 every 2 games. It's not outlandish, health permitting, that like if he plays to 35, 36-ish, he could pass like Jerome McGinley and Joe Sakic at 625. That might be within like the top end of his range. What do you guys think?
Now, where do Iggy and Sakic sit on the all-time there?
I have to check again, but I'm pretty sure they're like 17th, top 15
20.
area.
Okay, yeah.
For me, I would bet the house. I would bet my house that Stamkos does not get 600 goals.
Those guys like Stamkos and
You don't think he's
Ovechkin-
going to get 600 goals?
No.
Oh, you're saying you don't?
I don't think he does.
Oh, for sure. Those guys like Stamkos and Ovechkin with the big shot, like you don't have to skate anymore.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
The biggest thing that
Stamkos-
happens is when guys.
to interrupt, Jerome McGinley and Joe Sakic, because I just looked this up,
Yeah.
tied for 16th all time, 625 goals. They had about 13. They had like 1,500 games played. Steven Stamkos, less than 1,000 games played. Now, granted, that's because of injury, a lot of it. But if he continues the pace he's on, he would pass them if he can play to like about 35. Injuries are obviously a big thing.
And that's my issue. That's my issue with Stamkos. With goal scorers, you see Iggy, he was longevity. You see Sakic, longevity. Ovechkin, you're getting 78 games.
He's way up there though.
Yeah, you're getting 78 games a year. You're gonna have Stamkos is gonna score less goals moving forward.
Yeah, but the big thing with the big thing you're noticing in NHL now is when guys start losing their ability to skate, that's when they really fall off the map. But you got guys like Ovechkin and Stamkos with the big shot. Like you don't necessarily need that. Like you could just sit there and just on the power play you'll get 15, 20 a year. Just sitting there and teeing them off. No,
I agree, but I don't think Stamkos
That's true.
is
Also,
the
the
number one weapon
groin.
anymore.
Yeah, the groin is not important for skating. So, no.
just roll them on in the power play and just sit them on the left
Is
flank there.
Yager
Just
the
going-
anomaly? Wasn't that guy still getting like points and goals from all over the ice?
Yeah, but Yager's like ass is like 3 feet wide, so no one can touch him. So even when he couldn't skate anymore, no one could actually take
Yeah.
the puck off.
Yager
He just
has-
turned his butt in
It
the
was
face.
crazy.
And,
You know what Yager could have used? Remember my spin around move when I play hockey? I only have one move. I spin around. It's pretty good. Yager
yeah, I
could
know.
use
I know that move. Yeah, no,
Yeah. No good?
no.
Okay.
The thing about Yager, obviously, Andrew, is like, as you know, like, Yager played forever. He had I'm looking at their stats now, like all time. Yager played 1,733 games, and like he's third all time in goal scoring. The thing about Stamkos is that he's only at he's less than 1,000. He's only at 803 games. The only person who's even near that amount of goals in that game is Pavel Bure, who scored a shit ton of goals very quickly.
Yeah, did he score? Did Pavel Bure get 600?
No, the thing about Pavel Bure is he had injury issues.
Yeah, so that is my issue with Stamkos. It's nothing about skill. It's nothing about his shot. It's a matter of
Yeah,
I
but
don't think
Burry
he
never
lasts.
had the big shot. Burry's game
Was finesse and
it was
skill.
on his
Yeah.
speed and his skill, and it started and stopped with that. So you take that out of the equation. I think Stamkos is the way he is. He doesn't need that if it goes.
As
true.
a power play specialist. Yeah, but
Stamkos lock for over 550.
yeah,
Definitely.
I think 550 is where he ends.
So that's like putting him in around Guy Lafleur, Mike Modano, Matt Sundin range.
Yeah,
Sounds about right.
that's where I see it.
No, hold on. Matt Sundin is top 20.
Matt Sundin has 564 goals. I'm looking at it right now. Don't even try to argue with me.
Okay, I'm done. I had nothing.
But yeah, and like I mean, in terms of other like legacy things, I mean Nikita Kucherov. You were talking earlier about the Russian thing. Nikita Kucherov right now, like no longer does he have to deal with the fact like, oh, he's just another skilled Russian who's soft. I mean, you look at his 128 points from a couple years ago, and he's like, oh yeah, MVP, soft probably, right? Like now he wins it, and now he's on track to potentially be like in the Mount Rushmore of all-time greatest Russians ever. I kind of like broke this down. I was looking at this. If you had to talk about like the best Russians ever, you got like Ovi, Fedorov, Datsuk, Malkin, and then probably Kucherov. He'll likely surpass guys like Alexander McGillney, Ilya Kovalchuk.
Oh, those are fighting words, man. I don't think you
My
understand what
boy.
we have on this pod.
Okay, wait. Fighting words to...
My email is still Steven_McGillney at hotmail.com
Yeah, Elmo
from like 12 years
Elmo
back.
is sick, man.
Yeah, no, but
Elmo
like...
is sick.
McGillney was like first a trailblazer
no
for
cups,
Russians.
Though. No cups, though, right?
Yeah, well, trailblazer
Hey,
for
he
Russians
played for the freaking Leafs.
near the end of his career.
Yeah, when he was on Buffalo, he was killing it.
Led the team in
Yeah.
scoring.
He was great,
with the
but
Leafs.
but that's the thing about Kucherov, right? He's amazing. He's doing great things. If you look at his track record, he may end up surpassing what McGillney did during his career. That's kind of like where his career is heading.
Yeah, the cup puts him there. You can make the argument because of the cup, right? And that's
that's the
why
thing.
that cup is so
Yeah.
big for his resume and his career because, Kucherov, 547 points, 515 games. He's young. He has a cup. There's still a couple of years that Tampa Bay can still
Yeah.
win. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You can put him in the top three maybe.
Definitely
too.
ahead of guys like Kovalchuk Kovalev and Yashin.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to switch over to the actual Conn Smythe winner then in Victor Hedman. There's a very interesting debate with Victor Hedman in that with everything he's done, and again, like this is about the legacy thing that this Stanley Cup win does for the Lightning players. I think Victor Hedman has a very good case by the end of his career to be considered the second best Swedish defenseman of all time. You have Nicholas Lidstrom, and then there's another guy ahead of him in points right now for a defenseman from Sweden, and that's a guy by the name of Erik Karlsson. I don't know if his 30s are going to go as well as his 20s. What do you think, Steve?
We're going to get talking about the Leafs. I think Hedman's the guy where you're sitting there and you're talking about teams that they have good defensive players. Hedman is that guy, like that guy that everybody wants in their team. He's a big guy. He's not easy to play against, and he can make passes. He can make shots. He's everything you want. I think Hedman's going to go down as one of the best defensemen in the last 20, 30 years.
I can't argue with that. Like honestly, I think like Hedman like is starting to set himself apart along with Erik Karlsson, frankly, as like two of the best defensemen in their entire generation. I will say though that like Victor, like at the end of the finals, and when Victor won the Conn Smythe, they were saying like, oh my God, he scored 22 points throughout the season. That's like one of the all-time highest things for defensemen. Good for Victor. Karlsson's 2017 playoffs
Crazy.
with Ottawa. I don't know if a defenseman has played better. He scored 18 points, 4 fewer than Hedman in like 6 fewer games. 18 points in 19 games. Obviously had that amazing saucer pass to Mike Hoffman in the second round. But like Karlsson in his 20s was an absolute stud. And I don't know, I think through their 30s, I think Hedman will probably take it given his size and durability, because I don't know if Karlsson's durability is going to be able to last with San Jose.
I think the difference there with Karlsson's run and Hedman's run this year is Hedman was a piece to a well-oiled machine, while Karlsson was the team for that Sens year. He was driving it. Like he was driving the offense and the defense.
He was the quarterback. He was the coach. He was everything.
So I would say that was a better performance from Karlsson, but since then, what has happened, right? Like he has foot issues now, and it's gonna be tough to get back to that quality of play.
See, that's an interesting take with when a team like Karlsson's on Ottawa and Ottawa doesn't really have much going. Like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have one guy that drives the whole team, or would you rather have a guy like Hedman? There's all these stars on Tampa Bay, and almost every play, Hedman was... Anytime they scored and Hedman had a point on it, it was like Hedman did something. You saw that from the start of the play, whether it was a turnover, whether it was the breakout, whether he was slapping it in, like, you're like, holy crap, that's the guy I want there, you know?
Yeah, Hedman's definitely, like, he's been more of a slow burner. He's always been good, but, like, he's been taking steps every single year. And obviously, when you were watching the games during this playoffs, Hedman's the rover. He's in and out. He's going all over the place. Just been absolutely, like, unbelievable to give Erik Karlsson some credit. I really don't know, and frankly, I don't think that Hedman could do what Karlsson did during those playoff runs. Like, the excellence that, like, Karlsson reached, I don't think Hedman gets there, just because, like, that's frankly not his game. He's much more of a steady presence.
Though. It's a good point, because playing with superstars is super difficult, you know, and Hedman was playing with a bunch of people up front that can put up 100 points, and that's a hard place to be. As you can see with Karlsson on the Sharks, he's playing with a bunch of superstars, and it's kind of difficult to pass it off and let other people run the offense. So, yeah, I agree with that point, actually. Like, it's the way Hedman played, you might have actually even changed my mind there. Like, Hedman was a superstar amongst other superstars, while Karlsson, you know, when you're, like, playing hockey, when you're the best player on the team and everyone else is trash, you feel like
everyone's giving it to you. You're driving
you're
everything.
Such a superstar. You got 20 points in 10 games. Yeah. But you play on a good team, you get like 4 points.
They're skating trash over the blue, and they're like, "What am I doing? Let me give it to that guy. He'll do a good play, right?"
So
For sure.
I think wins the Conn Smythe as well. I think solidifies himself as a top 5 Swedish defenseman of all time.
Well, top 5. I mean, if you look at the Swedish,
It's top 3. Yeah. Well, you can put Salming second still, I think.
Yeah, Borges still has more points, career points than Karlsson or Hedman, but I think both of them are tracking towards like being better. One thing I will finish on Hedman then is, and this is the reality of a cap world, you become what your contract is. Hedman, 7.875, less than $8 million per year, less than Pietrangelo, who just signed with Vegas Golden Knights, which we'll get into, and obviously Karlsson, $11 million for the next 7 now. That's going to affect how people think of them, because those extra millions of dollars that Victor is giving up is something that his team can take and add a really good player. Maybe like, for example, sign Braden Point to an extension. Whereas Erik Karlsson cashed in. Where's San Jose now? They did basically the Brian Burke for Phil Kessel trade blueprint and traded a top 5 pick that they probably shouldn't have.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Inquisitive Bro podcast. We know you listen to us, but more importantly, we want to hear from you. Did you disagree with one of our takes? Did you catch a mistake that we made? Do you have your own take about something we discussed that maybe we didn't consider or failed to mention? If that's the case, we want to hear from you. Hit us up on Instagram @TheInquisitiveBro. Or even if you want to just reach out and say what up, that's cool too. If you make a good point, bring us an interesting take of your own, or you get us talking about something cool you brought to the table, you just may hear us giving you a shout out and discussing your take on our next podcast. Alright, well, we're not done yet. As always, thanks for listening. Now, back to the pod.
Okay, let's move on to then just current issues with Tampa, dealing with a very known situation with a cup winners, and that's the fact that now they're cap strapped. And they tried to trade Tyler Johnson, didn't work, so they decided to get around his no trade clause, and they tried to waive him. No one picked him up, and now they're still stuck with him. Guys, what are your thoughts on Tampa's cap situations now?
They're in the same boat as pretty much everybody else is these days. There's this weird. It's almost like it's a parody around the league where no one wants to touch these guys. Like, you even talk about Vegas trying to give up Fleury for... They're keeping half his salary. They're giving you a second-round pick, and you're getting Fleury at $3.5 million. I think that's a steal for... I'm
surprised no team took it. Yeah, but they were doing that.
I think there's half the teams in the NHL that don't have a starter goalie that's anywhere near as good as Fleury is, and they're running 2 backups out there, and no one wants to touch it. Now, it's especially this year, it's weird. There's... The focus on keeping your cap space open is more important than the players you're getting for the value, and it's kind of throwing everything off a little bit.
Right. I will say about this year though, there's other considerations than just what your cap hit is the fact like how rich is your owner, because they're the guys that own the team and they're the guys that make decisions. Real time money is going to be an actual issue where what is the owner willing to spend? A lot of these owners have like businesses and hotels, restaurants, etc. Things that have been hit extremely hard by COVID. Like, I'm just trying to reach the cap floor. That's what a lot of guys are doing. That's the Eugene Melnick play.
And he picks up all those guys that have $1 million on their salary, but their cap hits $5 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Front-loaded contracts.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know. Maybe Eugene doesn't understand the cap hit versus the actual salary.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what the financials are. He's picking
the guys that have the cap hits that are at $5 million. Like Frederik Andersen this year is $1 million real dollars and $5 million if the Leafs wanted to trade him. Like, Melnick would jump all over a guy like that if he needed a goalie.
In a cap world, that's how the Leafs use their financial might by giving all these like pre-season bonuses. That made Freddie's trade value higher, but obviously like the Leafs have decided like we're not going to trade him, and there's been a run on goalies in free agency we talk about. But the Lightning are primed for an offer sheet, but guys, I don't think they're going to get it. They have their big RFAs and Eric Chernak, Mikhail Sergachev, and Anthony Cirelli. I guess you guys are probably thinking that Sergachev is the guy who's going to get the most money out of those guys, right?
Oh, definitely. Sergachev is, I think he's one of the top young defensemen in the league. And they have to find someone for Tyler Johnson. Like, that's the only way. Yanni Gourde is just too good, in my opinion, to send him off somewhere.
What about Alex Killorn? Because you touched on something where it's like Tampa could, because they are such a good team, they do have other depth guys with certain contracts that they can get rid of. Do you think that, like, Tyler Johnson coming off a really bad year, do you think there's other avenues they can go of? Like Yanni Gourde, they don't really want to give him up. Alex Killorn could be an option. What about Ryan McDonagh?
I don't think McDonough's going anywhere. I don't think anyone's touching that. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think anyone's going anywhere near that. They may end up having to go the route where like you might see like a guy like Killorn being traded, and they might actually have to hold some salary back because even him at 4.45, like that's a great contract for a very usable player, but there's going to be teams that don't want to touch that for another 3 years.
I think what's going to happen, if I had to project what I think is going to happen with Tampa, is that the expansion draft giveth and it taketh away, and I think it's been one of those situations where like the blueprint with Vegas is there. Seattle knows how to hamstring teams into giving them exactly what they want. Tampa might be one of those teams who's like, hey, we're going to give you a draft pick, and can you also take Tyler Johnson off our hands?
But that's not until next year, though, right?
That's true. So they might have to wait.
They're going to have to do something.
But something like
forward,
that. Or Ryan McDonagh.
Sure.
Like, Ryan McDonagh, look, he's 31 now, prime of his career. But he's signed for until the end of the 25-26 season at 6.75 maybe you're thinking, like, okay, like, by the time he's 34, 35, he's might not be that good, and why don't you guys try to take that off our hands?
I'd be interested to see if they actually ship Cirelli off somewhere. If you're just trying to, like, you just focus on Sergachev here, like, clearly the numbers don't work in Tampa Bay, and they've got to do something, and it's just what other people are willing to take off their hands, right?
Well, speaking of numbers, I was listening to the 31 Thoughts podcast with Elliot Friedman, and apparently the Lightning talked to Steven Stamkos about potentially waiving his no-move clause. Do you guys see Steven not playing for Tampa at some point soon?
I see it. I feel like this team can win without Stamkos, as they proved, right? And that's $8.5 million, and they have him signed for 4 more years. He's like I said earlier. I think Stamkos is going to start showing his age. I just feel like he's been injury prone in the last 4 years, and getting that off their balance sheet would solve all their problems. So I think we could see a Lightning team without Stamkos.
And it's not like it's a huge risk, 8.5 for another 4 years. That he's 30 years old right now. Like, I think Pietrangelo signing is a lot more of a risk. Like how long that's running through to the end of his career there.
Yeah, like the more term you have on a player, the more risk you have. Let's move then to really quickly the Cup loser, and that is the Dallas Stars. What do you guys think of the way the Dallas Stars played during this finals, and just thoughts on that?
I think they're almost a Cinderella story. They're a great team, but I didn't expect them to go to the finals at all. They kind of have that blueprint of these, kind of how the Leafs are trying to get, like, from Joe Thornton, Wayne Simmons. They have the Joe Pavelski. They have the Corey Perry that played really well in the playoffs, and I think that's kind of what the Leafs are hoping for as well from the 3 guys that they signed. And I was pretty surprised, but at the same time, Stamkos scored 1 goal less than Tyler Seguin, so I think if Seguin showed up, they could have been the Cup winners.
Stamkos scored 1 goal more than Tyler Seguin in the finals.
In the finals, yeah,
but
exactly.
They were both injured, just one was playing.
Yeah, Dallas is one of those teams that, you know, they've been in the basement for a few. They're kind of hit and miss. Sometimes they're close to a playoff spot. Sometimes they're finishing 12th or 13th. And when you look at the makeup of their roster, I'm surprised they made it to the finals, but I'm more surprised that they have kind of struggled to make the playoffs in the last few years, given what they have.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously they had that really bad year, and then their owner called them out. Mm-hmm. And then they made the conference finals last year. I actually thought this was random too until I looked at previous Cup finals matchups, and I realized that in hockey, this is kind of like a middle of the road randomness. Since 2000, I made a list of like more random teams than these Dallas Stars. More random losers, I should say, than these Dallas Stars. I'm curious what you guys think. So you got the Anaheim Mighty Ducks in 2003. They were the 7th seed.
Didn't Anaheim get back to the finals against
in 2006, but very different team.
Against the Devils, right?
No, they beat the Senders. I know this because I have a family from Ottawa, and it's a big rivalry between Leafs and Sens, obviously. So I was very happy to see them not win the Cup. Then you got the Flames in 2004, also a 7th seed. Lost the Lightning. Oilers in 2006.
Definitely Oilers in 2006. I remember Fernando Pisani was like the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, that's Apex Mountain for Ryan Smith.
Oh, yeah, and Ryan Smith.
And Dwayne Rolson. Then, skip a few years. Philadelphia Flyers, 2010. Another Chris Bonger team, another random one that kind of like made it.
But had some solid pieces.
They did, but they were also 7th in their conference, and they just kind of like had a magical run. And then finally, I put this in, like, although they were actually a very good team, Golden Knights in 2018. Surprising in the sense that they're an expansion team, even though they won their division.
On Pisani had 18 points in 24 games in that 06.
I love how you're looking at Fernando Pisani right now.
18 points. This guy's career high was 37 points in a whole season, and he puts up 14 goals.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of hockey. You always get stuff like that. You always get a team that finishes a low seed, and you always have some 3rd or 4th liner that's basically not done much. Like Justin Williams has made his whole career off of it, and he's on any team. He's at the best point in his career, a 2nd-line player. Like, he's not that top dog guy, but he's the guy you want in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Mr. Game 7, 3rd liner, pay him $5 million because if we get to a Game 7, we know he'll score 1 goal.
It used to be Maxime Jelinas was the Mr. Game 7 prior to Justin Williams. So, yeah, it does happen. It does occur.
It's really unfortunate that they were just so banged up. Obviously, every team, after they get eliminated and after the playoffs, they release their list of actual injuries. Everyone knows that you play through injuries. Tampa was actually relatively unscathed during this, and that's one of the reasons why they won. Guys, here's a list of the injuries that the Dallas Stars suffered. Okay, so Jamie Benn, shoulder surgery right before the bubble, had a separated shoulder. Tyler Seguin played through a torn labrum in his hip. Ben Bishop, he was out, knee surgery. Blake Como, separated shoulder. Radek Vaska, broken wrist. Rupe Hintz, fractured ankle. Anton Hudobin had arm numbness, even though he played great. Their top 2 defensemen, Miro Heiskanen and John Klimberg, hip issue and shoulder, respectively. And Esa Lindell, broken hand. Guys, these guys were freaking just so banged up by the end of it.
Yeah, I agree with that, but at the same time, that kind of happens to a lot of teams. I don't know. There's something weird when those lists get released. Whenever I read them, I kind of get this weird feeling. It's like it's done. Like we kind of know it. I know it kind of it sucks, but like that happens to everyone. Like I don't know. It's just like it's almost like a sob story a bit.
Yeah, it's almost actually surprising when people aren't injured. It's like, oh, you guys were healthy. What the fuck was wrong with you? You weren't trying hard enough.
Yeah, it's like Carlson and that run we were talking about earlier. I think he had
broken ankle, definitely a broken foot or something.
Run, right? So yeah, I agree with you. When they get released after the fact, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. So now what? Like, what do you want? You want me to feel bad about them? They could have won, or what's the point, right?
Yeah.
So, but speaking on the best Swedish defenseman earlier, how about Miro Heiskanen? Does he become the best Finnish defenseman of all time? I think so. That's for sure. There's no one else. There's literally him and maybe Tommy Salo and Kimmo Timonen. Like I think Heiskanen 100% after that playoffs. 26
this is a
points.
meaningless stat. All you're saying is that the Finns suck at hockey.
But
they do not
Heiskanen
suck at hockey, but they have not had legendary defensemen.
Yeah, but Heiskanen, the way he played that series and in that playoff run was unbelievable. I think he is literally one of the best defensemen in the league.
Miro is, when you talk about like the top young defensemen coming up in the league, you talk about Cal McCarr, like Quinn Hughes, Miro's right there. He's a stud, and he's going to be for a long time. He's a great player.
Yeah, when you talk about we were talking about like Carlson and Hedman and those guys that teams just like they're begging for. They wish they get. And like Heiskanen's one of those guys where you draft these guys and they turn out in a couple of years. You're like, yeah, he's up for a contract renewal after next year. You're throwing the bank at him because those are the guys you want.
Yeah, this guy's untradeable. Like if you're the Leafs, you're not going to trade Kapanen for him. So instead, you have to get a first-round pick.
I think he might have had the best playoff series for a young defenseman ever. Like, honestly, like he's only 21 years old and put up 20-plus points as a defenseman. Absolutely incredible.
No, it's a huge deal when you're a franchise, especially with veteran and really good forwards like the Stars, to have also a young stud defenseman. The only issue is then, like, that entry-level contract is only so long, and then it's like, oh, shit, now it's time to extend him, and you got to really extend him. But we'll see where that goes. Let's take a break. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the pod so far. Here at the Inquisitive Bro, we're always thinking about ways to enhance your listening experience. And that's why I'm very excited to tell you about a new podcast add-on we're doing called Pod Notes. Now you may be wondering, well, what are Pod Notes and where can I find them? Well, basically, during the podcast, you may hear us from time to time make references to videos, images, charts, or graphs that we can't visually share with you because, well, you're listening to us. This is where Pod Notes come in. All the visual references that we make during the podcasts are going to be bundled into a single Instagram post that you can find on our Instagram page at The Inquisitive Bro. So, starting with this podcast that you're listening to right now, we're going to be doing Pod Notes. So look out for this pod's Pod Notes and the Pod Notes for future pods to come. Now, back to the pod. Okay, switching gears a little bit now. We're done with the Cup talk. It's off-season time, which means anyone can win the Cup now, and you guys are working towards it. So let's talk about like some of the big signings here, and obviously the biggest fish in this year's free agency class was Alex Pietrangelo, who was blindsided apparently when St. Louis signed Torrey Krug and decided to go to Vegas for 7 years at $8.8 million AAV. Guys, what did you think of this signing?
I think it's a perfect signing for the Vegas Golden Knights. That they need one piece to put them over the hump, and I think Petro and Shea Theodore are going to be the best 1-2 punch in the league.
Petro's one of the, like another really good young defenseman. All these little like older than Miro Heiskanen and like Quinn Hughes and all that, but like he has exploded onto the scene. His peripherals look amazing.
You mean Theodore, right? Shea Theodore?
Yeah, who did I say?
I think you said Petro.
Yeah, I meant Shea Theodore. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those players I thought the Leafs should have picked up a couple of seasons ago when he went.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like
like he was always a highly touted player. I don't know why the Ducks kind of just let him go for nothing, but
Him and Nate Schultz on Vegas there. Schultz is another guy I think can play really well in a top 4 role. But on to Pietrangelo, like a 30-year-old 8.8 for 7 years. Like we talk about guys that you need to keep your speed to be able to play past your 34s, your 35s. That's why a guy like Patrick Marleau is still relatively useful. He still has his legs behind him. I don't know. I'd be a little weary with Pietrangelo past, in the next 4 seasons. Like I think that's gonna be a pretty big drop off.
But do you guys adhere to the theory that's like these types of players become UFAs so infrequently that when he's there, you got to do what it takes to sign him?
I think so too, but I don't know if you've heard what's going on in Vegas though. A lot of players are getting pretty annoyed out there because they're bringing in these big guys and they're shipping. There's no loyalty there, so guys don't want to sign there. There's a bit of a it's not a movement going on yet, but there's some chatter going on, right?
Oh my god! Well, the amount of turnover that Vegas has had, like in the 3 years that they've been a team, they've had 9 significant trades and like a bunch of other trades. Like they move players so often that it makes Jim Rutherford look like a prude. Like I actually tracked
Jim
it down.
Rutherford makes Jim Rutherford look like a prude.
But so I tracked it down actually. Like so, their first year, 3-team trade. They traded for Ryan Reeve, Derek Brassard. They also got Thomas Tatar. Then that offseason, they trade Thomas Tatar, Nick Suzuki, and the second-round pick for Max Pacioretty. They also signed Paul Stastny. Then during the season, they acquire Mark Stone for Eric Brandstrom, Oscar Lindbergh, and the second-round pick. They trade Eric Halla. They acquire Alec Martinez, acquire Robin Lehner. And then this offseason, they've salary dumped Paul Stastny, salary dumped Nate Schmidt, signed Pietrangelo. Like, they're moving guys left, right, and center. They're already over the cap. They're going to have to make another move. Guys like Max Pacioretty and Alec Martinez are on the trade block right away. And, yeah, teams and players are angry.
Yeah, they're running it like it's a video game. Like you pick franchise mode in NHL 21, and that's what they're running it. But
yeah,
you haven't seen that in ever, I guess, right?
Well, that's what happens when you're an expansion team, I guess, and you're afforded the flexibility that Vegas was given from the expansion draft, where they got actually good players. They had all this cap space, all these picks, and they've slowly but surely using their flexibility to have like this veteran team. But in a few years from now, like they're gonna have to win. They're gonna have to win. They're one of the best teams in the league. And if they don't win, then pretty soon they'll just be like a normal run-of-the-mill team that's aged out, and then you have some issues because all their guys are starting to get no-move clauses, and I don't know what you're going to have to do. But Pietrangelo is going to be great for them. Like, not much else to say about that. What do you think, Karn?
Yeah, that's a great core of defensemen. Alec Martinez, Theodore Petro, Brady McNabb as well. Not a slouch there either. I think even Zach Whitecloud, he's pretty good as a young defenseman. They're 23 years old.
Yeah, they got like a young Cody Glass who's going to be able to play in their top 9. So we'll see what he can do on an entry level contract. But he was a top 5 pick, right? I think he was 5th overall in their first draft. So we'll see what he does. But hockey wise, like other than the internal strife, whatever, it's like it's a business. Be big boys and like deal with it. Hockey-wise, this team is really good. And, Karn, when we had our last hockey pod, we both said we thought Vegas would win. Although I did have Tampa in the final. So I'll give myself credit for that. Vegas has got to be one of the cup.
Who'd I say out of the East? Do you remember? I don't remember.
No, I'd have to re-listen. I thought you might have had Tampa as well. I don't know.
Maybe
it's some weird shit like the Flyers. But, yeah, hockey-wise, like Vegas is amazing. Let's move to the other top dog in this UFA class, and also one of the most interesting moves I've seen in a while. Taylor Hall signs a 1-year, $8 million contract with Buffalo. Start with you, Karn. What do you think about that?
Well, they have to perform now. Like they're that type of team that has tried to fill their holes with like Kyle Okposo and a bunch of other free agent signings, and it's never worked out. But I think this is kind of their last year to try, or Jack Eichel's going to be super pissed off. He's going to be frustrated. Like, that kid wants to win, and he doesn't want to be like Connor McDavid stuck in the Oilers. He wants to I think he wants to leave this team.
At least Connor McDavid's been to playoffs twice.
Yeah, I think Jack Eichel, if nothing happens this year, he's going to ask for a trade. Just by his body language, it seems that way.
I'm surprised he hasn't asked already, but like pretty interesting move for Hall. Like, apparently the big money deals weren't there. I thought that like Montreal was primed to offer Taylor Hall just like a stupid, long, and like expensive deal. But they spent that stupid money on Josh Anderson, which we can get into. Jack Eichel's the best center that Taylor Hall's ever played with. There's a great opportunity for him to put up big stats and like go into free agency afterwards. Also, like if Buffalo sucks, they can probably trade him. He's probably going to make the playoffs, like one way or another. Like
Buffalo isn't even a goalie right now, though, right? They're just sitting on Carter Hutton,
Yeah.
which is weird because goalies were flipping left, right, and center this offseason, and
Yeah.
you'd think they would jump on someone.
They don't even have a backup sign.
I don't know what Terry Pegula's like financial situation is. He's got a couple teams he owns, and like again, you don't know. But I don't think Taylor Hall is in Buffalo long term. I think he's a one and done there. I mean, they still have to sign Sam Reinhart to an extension. I don't think they can afford Taylor Hall for like a long term deal. They stupidly bought high on Jeff Skinner after his 40-goal season, and now he's making $9 million.
Incredible deal. Incredible. Like
For
this
his
guy,
agent? Yeah. Like Jeff Skinner and his agent, congratulations. You guys cashed out.
$9 million for what? Like 7 more years?
Oh my God, he's going on forever.
That's kind of like showing the difference with the market between last year and this year. Like if you had one good season last year, like they were throwing the money, you could command whatever you wanted, and then you got a guy like Taylor Hall out here I'm surprised how does no team throw 7 years, $8 million at Taylor? He's 28 years old. You get him till he's 35.
Well, I don't think he'd want 7 at 8. This is actually like an underlying question with Taylor. Like if you guys were a GM, like what would you give him? If you look at his stats, you know very clearly what his MVP year is because it's the one outlier year. Otherwise, he's had one other season where he had 80 points. He's only had 3 seasons where he's had plus 60 points. Otherwise, he's 50 points. I don't know what you'd give him. Like if you're trying to negotiate a long-term deal, he's so up and down. And he's had a very weird career, granted.
Yeah, definitely. But if you, like for me, like if you look at guys and you think of what guys are, Taylor Hall's a top line player on most teams. No, would you not agree to that?
No, I would. I think unless you're like a super stacked team, then he'd be like in your second line. But like every team, he's basically your top line left winger.
Yeah, so for me, it's like, I don't know.
But
I'm surprised that no one.
But are you gonna give him eight figures, or would you pay $10 million for Taylor Hall for like 6 years?
I wouldn't pay 10 at him, but I'm surprised there was no other offer. And if his only offer was like, there's got to be something better than Buffalo. Like Buffalo's got some good players, but like Buffalo's not poised to make the playoffs this year. It's not like he decided he wanted to do 1 year and get his money now and go sign with a team that he knows is going somewhere. Like you don't know what you're getting with Buffalo.
According to Elliot Friedman, who's pretty plugged in from Taylor Hall's camp. The long-term deals, they didn't like the AAV that was involved. It wasn't nearly as high as they thought. In fact, a lot of teams actually called it 1-year deals. One of them was Vegas. They offered him 1 year, $5 million, which he turned down. Colorado, which was one of the teams that people thought he would sign long-term with, they just didn't go after him. So it came to Buffalo with their 1 year, $8 million deal. He didn't want to be stuck missing a chair in this game of musical chairs that is free agency. Just decided to jump on it and kind of like a prove it deal. So, I mean, with Jack Eichel, you'd like to think that he can get 80 plus points, but I mean, it's a big risk because if he goes back to like 65 points, which he's like been basically his whole career, even though he looks flashy, then like what are you gonna get?
That's the best bet. Then bet on yourself, right? That's your best bet.
Okay, let's move on to some of the Canadian teams. Start with the Leafs.
Finally, I've been waiting for this moment the whole damn pod. Leafs, let's go. Let's actually go back to when they got eliminated. I got lots to say about that.
Okay, we can talk about when they got eliminated because Andrew wasn't on this last NHL pod. Andrew, what are some of the underlying trauma that you want to get off your chest about the Leafs getting eliminated?
It was a 5-game series. We still lost. We couldn't even win the gimmick series. We're still soft. Steve was pissed. What game did we rent out the Cineplex? That was the final game, right?
That was the final game, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we decided that because of COVID, it was really easy to rent out a whole Cineplex to watch the Leafs final game. So we did that. And we basically got to watch the Leafs lose by ourselves. That was pretty fun.
Should have chose Game 4 when they came back from 3 goals in like 2 minutes.
But even that, just going through as a Leaf fan, going through the motions of like, I wasn't watching with you, D, but Game 3 and Game 4, like that was an emotional wreck over there. You don't know what this team's bringing to the table. Like they decide they want to play for 10 minutes, then they just take a nap for the rest of the game. Like it's here and there the whole time. That's why I actually think some of the signings that they've got going on now, they're not great players. They're guys definitely beyond their prime. Even Wayne Simmons at 32 is beyond his prime. But at $1.5 million, these are the guys you want. They got some jam to play against. So when when the going gets tough and teams really get on you, you got guys that you can really give a bit of a pushback with, and I think that's what they lacked in this past series. There was no pushback. Like Columbus shut them down, and they took a nap. 100%. They pulled it over.
This was a very soft team. Lacked. I mean, this is now a buzzword in Leafland, but lacked competitiveness. This was not a competitive team, other than like the Stars were flashy, but again, like didn't like get in the trenches.
At one point in Game 5, the game isn't even over yet, but it's looking pretty bleak. I can't find Steve. So I'm like, whatever, this game's done. I'm going to go see where he's at. I go open the Cineplex door. There's nobody else in the whole building, right? Steve is pacing the hallway just trying to cool himself down.
That's what the Leafs do to me. That's the problem, which I'm hoping is a solution coming forward. I don't know.
I can see that. Full disclosure to the listeners out there, all four of us are Leafs fans, so expect extreme bias in these next little.
I try not to be biased. Like I want them to win. That's where my bias is. But yeah, in terms of like roster construction and all stuff like that, you try your best not to.
Right. I think this Leaf squad. I think what they're trying to do is kind of mimic that 03-04 season when we have Joe Nieuwendyk and we have Ron Francis and all these older guys coming in, and everyone was pissed off that we were trading first-round picks, second-round picks. But we were getting these guys for $1 million.
Yeah, 1 year flyers.
1.5, $700K. Like, I think these are the type of players that this squad needs to get over the hump. And they might not be the guys that are running the team, but we need those third, fourth liners that are going to work hard and grind every shift, and they're not going to take a shift off or a game off. So I think these three guys are the perfect recipe for
No,
these.
that sounds like crap. This Thornton signing feels like the Lindros signing.
Kind of. Like, there's similarities.
No, pretty bad, though.
No, but I entirely disagree.
He got hurt.
Thornton can't skate anymore, and he's going to be slow coming up the ice, but
That's why he got
plays
speedy
with some
wingers.
jam. He plays with some jam. Like, how long ago was that fight that Kadri had with Thornton where he ripped his beard off? That was only 2 seasons ago. Yeah, so he was still 39.
Lindros has jam.
Lindros doesn't.
No,
Lindros is a completely different player.
Lindros' brain was scrambled at that point in time.
And he's still
skating up the
points.
ice, and he's seen 40 guys up there.
It was Pronger or Lindros who had all the concussions?
Lindros.
Both.
Well, both.
Well, yeah, both.
No, it was,
Lindros is who Stevens lit up.
Right.
Yeah, Lindros got lit up by Stevens 3 times.
Yeah, but
the second time was when he was definitely washed up.
The Big E actually
Joe
that season played pretty well though. Like
he did.
He just got hurt.
He only played like 30 games though.
Yeah, he
right?
only played
That was
30
it.
games, but the games he played, he was actually
Scored
pretty
like
good.
11 goals or something.
Yeah,
like 30
11
Wasn't
goals.
that the
goals.
Jason Blake year?
No,
Let's not get into Jason Blake.
These
I
are
don't want to
really-
touch that because
Andrew, we're not going to bring up like those
Jason
years
Blake?
of the Leafs
Yeah,
because
man.
Jason Blake was awful, and he put up like 60 points when you just stop. No one wants to hear about Jason
135
Blake.
points for the Islanders, and then we bring him in, and it's like,
no.
I'm good.
Yeah, a lot of guys get 135 points in the Islanders. Didn't Matt Molson put up 30-goal seasons for like 5
Yeah,
years
I
in the
mean-
Islanders? Come on.
Yeah. So just going on the Leafs then, obviously a lot of different players in. Like in the team are TJ Brody, 4 years at $5 million AAV, Zach Bogosian, Wayne Simmons, Jimmy Vesey, Joe Thornton, obviously. Also, Alexander Barabanov and Mikko Lehtinen. We have
lighting it up overseas there.
Really,
KHL
Letton's got a good
Defensive
chance
Player
of-
of the
Player
Year.
of the week, baby. Let's go.
So actually, then you guys are touching on one of the questions I had about this team in general. There's clearly a log jam in D when it comes to kind of like your 4, 5, 6 guys. You got Lettinen, Bogosian, Hall, Dermott, Sandin, and Liljegren. I don't think Liljegren's going to play, but point is they're all like third type pairing defensemen. Do you guys think there's a trade coming?
I'd be interested to see what they do with Dermott. Dermott's an interesting player.
Still an unsigned RFA.
He's got the speed. He plays with a bit of an edge, and he can move the puck well. It's just for some reason he didn't figure it out in the last like year and a bit. And I'm pretty high on Dermott, but I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up dealing him because there's just no space there anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just Dermott just seems like he has all the skills necessary to succeed, but there's something that kind of holds him back, and I can't put it. I guess it's hockey IQ. That's kind of the only thing you can pit it against. But yeah, I think Dermott. There's a log jam there, and can't see who else he's gonna replace.
I kind of agree with you guys. I think Dermott is prime for a trade because he's the type of guy who's like, he's good enough to get noticed, young enough that like there's still potential, but he hasn't been able to pull through. And like I think he has top 4 potential, but he hasn't gotten there yet. And we can't wait for him to become the top 4. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that we look to move if we can get someone better. I don't know who that is, but I think there is a trade coming. I don't think we want to trade Sandin, who's still in his ELC, I should say. quickly on Thornton then. Where do you guys see him playing, and do you think he's going to be successful in that role?
I see him sitting in the bottom six somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if it's fourth line or third line. Everyone's got their opinions on that. But Thornton, he's a guy that's played on the wing a little bit. He's played mostly center, and you can put him anywhere. And if Thornton can still pass, that's his thing. He can't skate super well, but he can still move the puck around. And I think he's still a valuable player. He might get some power play time depending on how it shakes up.
Here's an idea. Why don't we move Marner's lazy, overpaid ass and get some actual depth on this team? How's that sound?
Marner was on track for like 90-plus points this season. Still really good. It's not the time for that. Although the guy we drafted, Rodion Amirov, most Leafs-y pick ever, diminutive, skilled winger. I kind of had a point on this. I wonder what you guys are thinking. Do you guys think he's ultimately Nylander, Marner insurance? He's probably 2 years away, 1 year away. Looks like he could be like a top 6 skilled winger. Sounds like we kind of got a lot of those.
I think Dubas naturally, he's more inclined to go after those types of guys, which to his credit, when he signed Simmons and Thornton and all these guys in the offseason, shows that he's trying to do something a little bit different. But for the most part, that's how he's run his drafts, how he's run his teams, and I don't know if all these guys are going to pan out. I'm not sure on the pick right now, and it's up in the air, but.
Well, when I texted Karn about the pick, yeah. Do you remember what take you had?
No, what was it? I
like
say a lot of crazy things.
He's like, he better not be the Russian Nick Patan.
Yeah, he seems like it. He looks like it. That's for sure. Just look at his just how he looks. He looks like a Nick Patan. So.
Is Nick Patan still under contract for the Leafs?
He is.
I don't even mind Patan. I could throw him in the bottom, like last line there. He's all right.
You want to draft a Nick Patan though in the first round? That's the
that's the Winnipeg Jets' fault.
Yeah, when did Patan go? He went high, right?
Yeah,
he went like 17th or something.
Yeah, something.
Okay, let's switch tracks and then go to one of the
let's do some early predictions for the Leaf season, just to like get everybody's opinions on record. How do we see the season going? Karn, give me. I know you had a hot take in the opening with that Leafs.
First of all,
winning the first round.
Before he answers, I should note that like it seems increasingly likely that the NHL is going to switch up the divisional structure, and it's going to be an all Canadian division. I'm just going to go out there and say it. I think the Leafs.
We're going to go 21-0 against the Sens.
I think the Leafs are the best Canadian team through and through, and I think we win that division.
Yeah, we talk about like Tampa Bay and how they've been there and kind of up and down for a little bit, and they got swept by Columbus last year. Like sometimes these teams go through a lot of this. Like I don't quite remember how it went with Chicago, but didn't Chicago have a bit of struggle before they won their first cup a bit there? So
it was pretty streamlined.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Anyways, you build your team and you stick with your relative core and you build around it.
That is not what you were saying after Game 5 last year.
Yeah, I said get rid of all of them as long as you get value. Obviously, what you have now doesn't work. So change it, whatever it is. Whether it's like Matthews should be the only untouchable on the team.
And do you see enough change on this team going into next season?
I think they got some jam now, and I'm okay with it. Like I'm not one of those people that are saying like run Marner out of the building, but like it is an interesting discussion that I've had. Like if you can get a guy like Seth Jones, who's one of those like top D guys,
that trade isn't available.
It's not. Yeah. It's not. But
I'll do that in a second.
But in a hypothetical world, if you can get one of those guys for one of your top guys, then it's something you definitely think about. Like in the Kapanen trade, for example, you got decent value out of the Kapanen trade. I'm all for it. You need to change it up. That's fine. Janssen, they didn't really get much for. That was more of a salary dump, but like that's what it should be for everyone. These guys have underperformed for so long. Like if you get your relative value worth of them, then get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean to jump on your point, like Chicago is not a good comparable in the sense that like they're pretty unique in that they made the Eastern Conference Final and then they won 3 cups in 6 years after that. You have to look at other teams that took a while and then eventually broke through because that's what the NHL is, just like getting your chance, and then like eventually like can you get there? I mean like fuck, the Dallas Stars made the finals this year. Like I never thought the Dallas Stars were that good. They made the finals. Granted, they lost, but like you look at the Washington Capitals, like I mean they were.
That's the right example right there.
Yeah, I mean at least the Washington Capitals are winning Presidents Cups and the Leafs haven't even come close to that. But like they keep grinding, and eventually they win. I mean like.
It was the same buzz around Washington, right? Like, can these guys win? Can you win with a team based around Ovechkin and stuff like that? These guys are winners, et cetera, et cetera.
I think Kyle Dubas is learning in the sense, like, yes, like, the advanced analytics, like, very intuitive, like, it's smart to, like, look at them, but also there's, like, certain human elements involved where you want a little bit more grit, a little bit more competitiveness, like, hashtag buzzword, and he's trying to build a more complete team. I think this team is a better fit. I don't think Tyson Barrie fit at all. I think Cody Ceci is fucking trash. And I think
Thank
like TJ
God.
Brody and Zach Bogosian are just a much better fit, plus internal improvements and like kind of like a different mix. And I think it's going to work out great. I think this team is the best Canadian team. It's going to win this division. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Like Matthews' injury, like
Aside.
Or if he
Aside,
pulls his
potential.
pants down again and gets put in jail.
yeah.
Well, they have to win because, like, have you looked at the prospect pool like lately? Like, everyone's been they basically
Yeah.
drawn out of it. There's nothing left. When we
It's
used to
fair.
have, we had guys in the Marlies, and it was just like you were sitting on gold out there. There's nothing out
top
after Nick Robertson.
top prospect, Jeremy Bracco. is
Yeah,
still around.
Racco, he signed with the Hurricanes or something like that. So
Do you guys think Matthews was going to be the captain before that pants down incident?
I was
think
hoping.
I think
So.
so.
I think they're
I don't
always
think
going
it,
to Tavares.
I don't
I
think
feel like
it
they were
was always
stitching
going
on
to
the C on
Tavares.
his jersey. He drops his pants and he goes into the room and goes, unstitch, and some lady like undoes the stitching around the C.
Call me crazy.
It was his
though.
job to lose, man. I'm telling you, it's his job to lose.
It was, in my opinion, it should have been AM34. Like I'm a huge Matthews fan, and I think this is his team. And I thought giving it to John Tavares was kind of just, I don't know, it didn't feel right to me.
I think for a city in Toronto where everyone's like hyper focused on every little thing that goes on, at least you need to have a guy like Tavares who just kind of sits there and he's just poised, you know?
Yeah, I think what happens is Tavares is going to be the captain for a little bit, and then Austin, when he's in his last year, is like, oh, by the way, Austin, you're the captain now. Please don't leave.
Until he runs off.
You guys are being so
into
optimistic. I'm going to
Arizona.
just prove that none of you guys know anything. I'm going to go around the horn here. Steve, Leafs win a playoff series this year, yes or no?
Yeah, definitely.
Chris?
Depends who they play.
No, yes or no?
Yeah, I think they'll win a playoff series.
And Karn?
Not only do they win, Wayne Simmons scores the first goal of the 2021 playoffs.
I'm pro on Wayne Simmons. I think Wayne
so, too.
Simmons
I
is
think
going to
he's a
be
good fit.
going to be a great fit.
Okay,
I can't wait to revisit this when the Leafs are out of the
sure.
first round.
Andrew, we're done with your hot take shit.
It's not hot. The Leafs losing in the first round is a hot take?
You contributed
Unfortunately,
very...
it's not at this point.
It's funny because of all the matchups the Leafs could have gotten, Columbus was probably the worst one.
Nah,
of the,
man, that
of the
should've been-
12.
that-
Yeah, but that's
you
also
should have still
win.
blown right by him, but
That's
the
also
worst
because
one.
this team was just like that team was a bad team. Like that Leafs team was not that good a team. If you looked at like the way they were tracking, like obviously like
I think that's an
progress is not
excuse.
linear, but you look like it was like 105 point, like 100 points, 105 points, like and then like less than 100 points this year, and they were on track for less than 100.
but just the way they play, like
Yeah.
Columbus is the team that you want.
If you
Columbus
cannot,
because
if you can't win
they did it.
if you can't beat the Jackets,
But
you're
they-
not doing anything.
They did
Yeah.
it to Tampa Bay last year. That's the thing. And Tampa Bay's got the similar kind of thing as the Leafs got going. I mean, they got a little bit better on the D, but they've got all the
and
offensive
that was on
juggernauts.
Tampa. That wasn't because Columbus was so
Absolutely.
good. You know?
No, I'm
Like,
not saying Columbus is great. I don't know. If I was the Leafs, I would have rather had the matchup against Tampa
Wait,
Bay this year.
didn't the Leafs get shut out 2 games out of the 5?
It was
They
a,
did,
it was
didn't
a
they?
I've tried to
very
block all
low
that out from my
scoring,
memory.
It was a
Yeah,
low
that's
scoring
like, come on. The
series.
things we talked about were poor defense. Like, that was the defense fault that we couldn't score.
We made Jonas Corposalo seem like the greatest goalie of all time.
He did stand on his head though. For
He
to
did
his
against
credit.
the Leafs. That's what the Leafs.
That's the
stole.
thing. If you're the Leafs, like you doesn't matter who the goalie is. I don't like. It doesn't matter who the goalie is. You got to put like you have the ability to put a 10 spot on every.
David Ayers stood on his head.
Okay.
there was obviously an issue.
Next topic. Let's stop this
Hold
here.
on,
Next
hold on.
topic.
I remember in Game 5, as Steve was like slowly, angrily eating Sour Patch Kids, he goes, "I swear to God, if Tavares hits one more post, I'm gonna lose it."
He did hit a lot of posts.
A lot of posts.
I say a lot.
That's
I say a lot of
super
things
JT
out
played
there.
really well though. Like he actually did
Well, he
have a
tried
couple of
hard,
good
but
games. You know, like
His points wouldn't show it, but look, I think this team like last year they struggled from like honestly I think it was just a bad team makeup, and I think this year like we've done a better job of that.
where was Mitch though? Where was Mitch?
He had a
That's my
bad,
issue.
even though his points were there, he had a worse year than the year before. I expect bigger things. I think like he kind of had the bad, like kind of like Nylander when he came back from his contract dispute. Although Nylander was legitimately terrible. Mitch Marner has like much more to give. He's still a very
Yeah, no
talented
worries.
player.
We only owe him $40 million over the next 4 years. It's
It's gonna
fine.
be a fine contract.
Yeah, I'm sure it's money
They're
well
going to
spent.
provide. He's going to provide equal value on the contract. You didn't win the negotiation. You definitely you definitely didn't win the negotiation. I don't think you lost it. He provides like 90 plus points.
I think you
Yeah,
lost it by
I
2
think you
million.
lose, yeah.
Yeah,
million?
he probably sits around the 9 mark. But like he probably sits around the 9 mark, but like what's your alternative? If this is the guy you're banking on, then
alternative
bank on it.
Still, like the
The
second.
alternative is letting someone offer sheet him and taking 4 first-round picks.
Are you
That's,
what? Are
They
you
don't do
kidding
that
me?
though.
And you take
Yeah, I
you
like
have
that
8
too.
Yeah, but you're gonna get 4 first-round picks. What are they gonna come out? Unless you get 4 top 5 first-round picks,
and
you're
$10,
not.
and $10 million in cap space to sign Artemi Panarin or anyone else in that. There's a lot of things
You're
could
gonna go throw the
There's
money
a
at
reason.
Panarin
There's
or
a
Jeff
reason why
Skinner.
I would take Panarin over Marner today. I would do it 100%.
Oh man, that's that hot take you were talking about there earlier.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
hold
that.
up, I agree with
Panarin over.
Artemi Panarin
Panarin's
is
better.
sick.
Panarin's better than Marner. Panarin's definitely better than Marner.
Guys, Marner's like 20. What is he? 22 years
Oh
old.
no, I'm not saying like he's 23. I'm not saying that he like Marner's definitely young and very
That's why you
promising
have the first
right now.
first-round
You
picks.
put Mitch. Okay, remember when Mitch Marner was playing with Matt Martin on the bottom line there? Like they buried him on the bottom line, and didn't Martin get like 5 goals in 10 games? Mitch Marner's a guy that drives the play. You need guys like that. You can have these sideline guys that do their thing, but you have guys that drive the play. You need them. And Marner, for the majority of his career, is a guy that drives the play. Didn't show it in the playoffs this year. Had an off playoffs. That's fine.
Had an off year.
But for sure.
Unbelievable amount of secondary assists as well, but we won't talk about that.
Look, Marner's going to be just fine, but not like he's not the value contract, but he's a good player. We'll see where what his future is with the Leafs, but he's the second best Leafs player drafted in the past.
Like we're talking Marner at
30 years.
We're talking Marner at
Leafs.
10.9. Like, can we talk Tavares at 11? Because Tavares can't even skate anymore,
well,
right?
yeah, that's the bigger problem. But
Yeah,
Like you want to talk about, and
like
yeah,
that
you signed him out of free agency, but like the money's gone and it's set on these guys, so you find a way to win around these guys. And
Are you guys
you
pro
should be able to.
Dubas? Pro Dubas or no
100%,
Dubas?
I think Dubas is an amazing GM.
Comes and goes.
Well, hold on, the
Yeah,
contracts
comes and
you're
goes.
complaining about are Dubas contracts.
Well, first of all, I'm not necessarily complaining, but he showed his like my take on Dubas is that he showed his inexperience with those contract negotiations, but he's I think a very bright and talented GM. He's made a lot of good moves around the margins, and he's only now getting the team that he's trying to make. He's been the last 2 years. He's been trying to get over Lou Lamoriello's mistakes.
That being said, if Lamoriello was still the GM, there's no way Marner would have gotten $11
That's true. You would
million.
have you would have traded
At the same
Marner
time,
for
with-
like
No, Marner would have just sat in there and been like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take the $9
No.
million, no problem. I'll shave my sideburns off or whatever."
You're
he was telling
100%.
everyone
You're
else to do,
100% right. Like Lamoriello would have been better for those contract negotiations. Wish he was there for that.
Yep.
Do I think that Dubas is overall a better talent evaluator? Yes, I
Yeah.
think he's better for the modern game, and I think he sees hockey better at this point. But like Dubas showed his inexperience, and he got played by those
Absolutely.
RFA negotiations. He could have gotten a better deal.
The Marner contract is the opposite of the Nylander contract. He didn't want to do what he did with the Nylander contract, even though you got Nylander at a pretty decent value, and he just didn't want to go through it. And at that point in time, it was just like, all right, take whatever you want, and I don't want to do this again. And you make one mistake on one end, you make another mistake on the other end, and hopefully you learn from both of them and focus in going forward. No,
I think Dubas and Pridham kind of outsmarted themselves in this situation as well. I think they expected the cap to go up by
Oh,
quite a bit
100%.
here.
They were banking on
So
that.
we're talking. It should have been an extra $4 million for this team, and then it starts looking a little different, right? And
But it's
now
also
with COVID
affected
hitting-
the UFA market. So like
It has, but
they're getting guys at cheaper values.
No team had the signings like we had in the last 2 years,
That's
right?
true.
Like we had the big money contracts ready to get
But
signed.
our RFAs were affected by the Oilers RFAs, which affected Buffalo's RFAs, which are going to affect future RFAs.
yeah, but those guys got max term. That's actually the real
Yeah.
issue we're talking about. Matthew got
Walking Matthews right to UFA.
yeah,
that's
like
an
the 5
issue.
and the 6 years. That's the problem. If you get these guys at your 8 years, like it's still an overpay on Marner, but like that's not as bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but look, the Leafs, they have nothing really to answer in the offseason. It's all about what they do on the ice. So we're going to move forward, and we're done with the Leafs. And we're going to talk about another Canadian team that made some interesting moves this season. I want to talk about the Montreal Canadiens.
Don't like it. That's like
Don't like their offseason.
I don't like any of it, and I don't know if you want to get me going here, but I don't like much of it.
Well, I'm going to get going because I just want to say this. Like, Elliot Friedman in his 31 Thoughts podcast said very clearly that he thinks that Marc Bergevin is under the impression that he needs to make the playoffs to keep his job. And you know what happens when GM thinks he's like working for his job? He makes really dumbass moves. Like Josh Anderson. He had one season where he had over 40 points and had 27 goals, and that was 2 years and 1 shoulder surgery ago. And he gives him 7 years, 5.5 AAV. Apparently, what Josh was doing, he told this to Columbus and he told this to Montreal, is you're either giving me minimum 1 year or maximum. Like, I'm not taking in between. And Bergevin, who had just traded Max Domi for him, is like, I guess I'm giving you 7 years because if you don't pan out, I'm not going to be there anyway. This is stupid. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I don't agree with, like, I think the trade, they undersold Domi on the trade to begin with.
I like Max Domi.
I don't mind Josh Anderson. I like Josh Anderson as a second, third player, but like as a second, third liner, yeah, exactly what you said about all that. I don't like any of that. And aside from Friedman's take, I was hearing a lot of takes of people saying that, oh, Montreal's going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a hard team. I just don't see it at all. I look up and down this roster. I do not see it at all.
This Josh Anderson signing actually kind of reminds me of the Dustin Penner deal with the Oilers. I think very similar players, and also hopefully not to such disastrous extent, but kind of a little bit David Clarkson with the Leafs.
I was about to say, it smells a bit like Clarkson.
Smells like way too much term. I don't care about the AAV. Like, give him like 1 year, 5.
But Clarkson was the same thing. His best year was like what, 48 points. I think.
Yeah, he had 30 he had a 30-goal season with New Jersey.
But he only had
then
like 15 assists though.
Then he had a pretty good year during the lockout shortened season. And then GM was like, I'm not worried about year 7. I'm worried about year 1. He was still a bad player. I think Josh Anderson is kind of like in the Penner mold where he's going to have a couple of years where he pots 30 goals and then like 5 of the 7 years where he's just not that good. Tyler Toffoli, I like, actually. I thought that was a pretty good deal. I think he overpaid on Brendan Gallagher, 6 years, $6.5 million for loyalty. But here's an interesting thing. I looked this up. So 5 years from now, in the 2024-2025 season, they'll have 32-year-old Brendan Gallagher, 39-year-old Shea Weber, 37-year-old Carey Price, 37-year-old Jeff Petrie, and 30-year-old Josh Anderson, but he's a power forward, so they kind of age a little faster. $36.6 million for all of them. That's 45% of this year's cap. This team reminds me of like the early 2010s Leafs. They're absolute middle of the pack, going nowhere, no vision, and Marc Bergevin is going to get fired in 1 to 2 years. Mark my words. And people in Montreal 4 years from now are going to be like, why the fuck did we let this guy ruin our team?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they make it 40 games a lot, depending on how many games there are in the season. But let's say they make it halfway through the season and they're sitting at 12 or 13th. I don't even think he makes it out of this season.
They're lucky that they made the bubble playoffs and then miraculously beat Pittsburgh, although I thought they would have been better off just losing and trying to get Lafreniere.
That's the best as a Leafs fan. That's awesome.
And they're lucky. Tatar, really, like when they got Tatar, they didn't expect, like he
Tatar's been a boon for them.
He's like massively overperformed. Like you take that out of the equation, like
well, that's the thing. They can't even re-sign him. Like, I mean, that's $36.6 million in 5 years from now. We're not even talking about extensions for Nick Suzuki, Jesper Kotkaniemi, and Philip Deneau. 4 years from now, this team is going to be really bad. They can probably get rid of one of these guys in the Seattle expansion draft, but the point is that they're going to be aged out, capped out, and stuck in the middle.
And the elephant in the room, $15 million on 2 goalies over 30 years old.
Jake Allen. I mean, although I think
there's no other backup anywhere remotely close to, like, you get a backup at $3 million, you look like a dummy, right?
Would you rather have Jake Allen at like 2.5 or Aaron Dell?
Wouldn't you rather have Fleury in the second round pick at 3.5?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I think.
Yeah, why didn't they get Marc-Andre Fleury? That kind of seems weird to me.
Like that. I'm
French and
I'm shocked on all of that.
They already made the Jake Allen move.
I would get rid of Carey Price and just get Marc-Andre Fleury.
Let's move on then to another team that's been making moves. Calgary Flames signed the top goalie in the UFA market and also made, I think, the worst deal in the entire offseason in Chris Tanev. What do you guys want to talk about first?
Tanev's an interesting guy. Very injury prone. I honestly, at Tanev at 4.5, I don't have that same take as you. Like, I don't mind Tanev at 4.5.
Pull out the graph, Chris. Pull out the graph.
Yeah, the Inquisitive Bro is now subscribed to evolvinghockey.com, which has like tremendous advanced analytics with all hockey stuff. So Chris Tanev, according to Evolving Hockey, no matter which way you put it, just like 2 standard deviations below replacement level when it comes to like chances for, chances against, expected goals against. Also, if you look at his Corsi and Fenwick, below 50%. He's like obviously a defensive defenseman who doesn't provide defense, and he's like injury prone. I don't mind $4.5 million, frankly, actually for 1 year, because I think these defensive defensemen, year in, year out, like there's high variance with them. Depends on one, they're partners, and two, just like how things go. But 4 years. The story behind this is apparently they offered TJ Brody the exact same contract. When TJ Brody went to the Leafs, they turned around. They're like, well, we got to give this money to someone. Let's just give it to Tanev. So that's what happened. I think it's a dumbass move. Jacob Markstrom, I actually like the move. It's not bad. I think they'll do well. Like, I still think this team's going to be good with a good goalie. Goaltending could really help people's, like, team's problems.
But they threw 6 years at Markstrom.
Yeah,
he's 30 years old now, right?
Yeah, if you look at Markstrom's like stats, like not far off from Frederik Andersen. So if you look at the Frederik Andersen contract 5x5, 6x6 is a little bit of an overpay, but it's not.
He carried the Canucks.
Yeah, it's probably not going to kill them, but like this team is still going to be really good. But like the Chris Tanev deal, like I really hate it. It's like that. Oh my god, it's like who the Oilers signed and why am I blanking on his name?
Adam Larson?
No. The guy who just blocks shots, that's all he does.
Chris Russell?
Yeah, Chris Russell.
Chris Russell.
It's like the Chris Russell deal for the Oilers.
Yeah,
it's
that's a very good analysis. That's pretty equivalent.
It's like right away, it's like, fuck.
Or Carl Alsner on Canadians like the last year or so.
Or Joel Edmondson on the Canadians who they just signed. Like, that's going to be a bad one, too.
Carl Alsner was the worst. Wasn't that like 2 years ago? They already bought him out, right? And it was like $6 million a year.
Like, the amount of times like they make like stupid deals like that. You guys think, I assume, like, Flames are still going to be like pretty good, eh?
I don't know. Like, I look at their roster, but they always kind of surprise me. They got good team defense, and they still got their pieces, and Giordano, and they lost TJ Brody now, though, so it's going to be a tough one. I don't see them making that much noise, but they're one of those teams that could surprise.
Yeah, you look at the roster on paper, and there's nothing that really jumps out except for the fact that Giordano still moves, but he's 37. So if he drops off,
I didn't realize that. That he's 37.
If he drops off at all, then I think then it doesn't look good at all. You got your Monahans, your Gaudreaus, they're kind of slowing down a little bit.
Not to mention that they're going to have to sign Tkachuk to an extension. What's just going to happen is they're going to have to trade Gaudreau. Because he's eventually going to want an extension, and he's underpaid right now, and the Calgary Flames fans are angry at him. But they're going to have to choose between Tkachuk and Gaudreau, and they're probably going to trade Gaudreau. And like, I don't know where this team is going. They're going to have to hit on the some of their draft picks, but
they still got Lucic for 3 more years.
Oh, that's good.
$5
That's good. Yeah, thank God they have that. Okay, let's move on to Lucic's old team, which is the Edmonton Oilers. Jesse Puljujarvi is coming back, and they signed Tyson Barrie to 1 year, $3.7 million, and also Kyle Turris coming as their third line center. What are your thoughts on the Oilers?
I like that sneaky signing of Kyle Turris at 1.6. Like, that's not bad at all.
Third line center, Kyle Turris. I think that's actually a really good signing.
I think it's great, yeah. I think if a guy goes down, Turris is the guy. He's a great guy to jump into the top 6. I think the Oilers, they've been under the gun for a little bit, and I think they're ready to make a jump. As much as it's enjoyable to laugh at the Oilers because they've kind of underperformed for so long. If you look at what they've got on their roster, even the Tyson Barrie signing, I know he didn't pan out as well as the Leafs wanted him to, but at $3.7 million, you got to remember 2 years ago, he was a top 5 puck-moving power play guy, right?
I think it's a great move for the Oilers. 1 year flyer on this guy who's going to be on their number 1 power play unit. Tyson Barrie is not that he's a bad player, he just didn't fit in Toronto. Apparently he's also a really nice guy. Everyone loved him, but...
Oh, well, that's good.
Hey, well, it's always... Thanks for your input, Andrew. It's always good to have good guys in the locker room. I think it's a great flyer. I think he can definitely come back to being like a top 10 point getter as a defenseman. But this team comes down to what McJesus and Draisaitl can do. That's
Why
their
don't
team.
the Oilers get Marc-Andre Fleury? Like, I'm so confused here. Like,
the
about Marc-Andre Fleury.
Koskinen Smith thing,
Yeah,
I'm 100%.
Because you're looking at Koskinen, it's just like that was a weird signing to begin with when it happened.
Peter Chiarelli's last move as a GM was signing Koskinen to that stupid extension.
Wasn't it based on
Chiarelli
like
signed
10
him?
games or 20
Yeah,
games?
it was like
Yeah.
10 games. He took over and he played well for a bit.
He signed him to an extension, 4 years at 4.5, and they're like, 20 days later, now we're going to fire you.
Okay, but Chiarelli's track record as a general whole, start to finish, even like it's not like he just kind of fell off a bit. Like he's got to go down. I don't know who he's still in consideration to be in a GM position with some of these teams that are looking for GMs. They were talking about it. Like he's got to be one of the worst ever. No.
Well, he won a cup with Boston. Yeah. It's like kind of like a old boys league in NHL, right? If you've been around, you make good connections. You're going to get your name out there.
But he even did the same thing in Boston. He like the Sagan trade. He just got rid of guys for nothing. That's what it comes down to. If you got a guy you need to get rid of, make sure you get some value back for him.
Yeah, didn't have a good track record. I do want to say that Edmonton right now is like pretty capped out, and like their team is what their team is. There's not a big difference. Next year, They have $29 million in cap space right now. Obviously with like their main guys already signed, and that's because like a bunch of their albatross contracts are coming off the books. Adam Larson, Chris Russell, Tyson Barrie's obviously off. Nugent Hopkins are gonna have to extend him, but a name that apparently has been rumored around is bringing back Taylor Hall
next year.
Yeah, that's been the rumor.
Go for it. I think they sold early on Hall, and they got rid of him because they needed to get that big defenseman, and they got Larson, who wasn't that at all.
Never understood that. Didn't even understand the Eberle trade.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't make sense.
Well, they traded Eberle for Strome, right?
Yeah.
And
that's
then,
like,
and then
that's
Strome
the
for Spooner.
Those are the number one arguments against like the Leafs, like
Where's
trading
he
a
go?
Marner or Nylander too early.
You make sure you get
I
value
wouldn't
for
trade
him.
Marner for Adam Larson, though. You
No,
know, like when I
you
say
only
like,
trade you only
maybe
trade
trade
Marner.
him with,
You only trade a Marner for like a top defenseman,
like Seth
like an
Jones
actual
or
like
something around there. You know.
They seemed like they were panic moves at the time when Edmonton was making them.
Okay, we'll just wind up here then. Vancouver, big Nate Schmidt trade really saved their offseason. Obviously, after they tried to sign Tyler Toffoli, but didn't work out. They need to save their cap space for the Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes huge extensions that are going to come. In Winnipeg, traded for Paul Stastny. Do you guys think Patrick Laine gets traded?
Sorry. Oh, do you think Patrick Laine gets traded? I think there's a high possibility of it. I think. I don't know. What do you get for Laine though? I don't know.
It's a very difficult deal to make. I think you're going to have to get some spare parts, make a defenseman involved with it. But teams that like have been rumored to be interested: Carolina, Minnesota, Columbus.
I think if they do pull the trigger on a Laine trade, that's going to be one where like 3-4 years down the road, they're going to realize they didn't get enough back for him. Kind of like a Taylor Hall kind of deal. That's kind of like generally what happens with these types of trades when you feel like you're forced to make that happen.
Patrick Laine hasn't improved at all, like in my opinion, since he's been drafted. He's been the same guy year in, year out.
Still a monster though. Like,
Yeah, he's still a monster, but he's the same monster.
Remember Laine versus Matthews? Remember that?
Oh,
Thank goodness
laughable.
that
Laughable.
chatter is all done.
Do you guys want some early season Vegas odds?
Yeah, okay, we can switch to early season Stanley Cup Vegas odds. Go for it.
Whether you want them or not, I'm going to give it to you.
You know, for a Leaf hater, why are you wearing a Leafs hat, by the way?
It's the only hoodie I could find. It's cold.
You can go on with your odds.
Tampa, Vegas, Colorado tied at 7.5 to 1 favorites.
Makes sense.
You guys cool with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Defending Cup champions getting the odds on favorite makes sense. Leafs are 8th. They are tied with Dallas at 20 to 1. Fair?
I don't think Dallas is going to do the run they did this past year, but
Typically, these teams that make it then drop off. It's super hard to make it that far. And half their team is still injured. I mean, like,
I'm looking at the bottom of the list how far the mighty have fallen. This is crazy. You got Ottawa at 100 to 1, and below that, any guesses who that team is? 150
San
to
Jose?
1. Detroit Red Wings.
Detroit Red Wings. Yeah, Detroit's got a lot of work to do. They need to rebuild, and they've got a lot of interesting contracts.
they're a team, though, like, they're actually a team that I'm surprised they're not looking at potentially doing offer sheets to, like, some of Tampa's guys, because they have a ton of cap space, and, like, what the fuck are they working for? But then again, I guess you don't want to give up your first round pick.
Bring back Babcock. They could do it. Why not?
Babcock's going to go to the Seattle
Relive
team.
the glory.
Okay, let's wrap up really quickly then. Do you guys have any other like signings or things you guys want to talk about?
Did you read that Melnick said the Sens are going to win a cup in 4 years?
He always says crazy things like
He
that.
guaranteed a
Melnick's
cup
a
when.
raging lunatic. Okay,
Like that's the worst take of any of the.
That's a great take, though, because as in his position, what's his downside?
Yeah, I honestly don't think he actually believes that in
No, of
any
course
way,
not.
shape, or form. He just realizes he needs to say something to try
Melnick
and get
is
some
more-
sort
You
of.
should have said this year. I guarantee we win this year.
Melnick is more likely to not be the owner of the Ottawa Senators in 4 years than for them to win a cup in 4 years.
All right.
Okay,
Good. Any
I got
final
nothing.
thoughts?
Yeah,
Any
I got
hot
nothing else to
takes?
say.
I think we got most of it off. I just we didn't get anywhere into the Marner trade talk, but no one's trying to fight me on that. So
I tried. Chris kept cutting me off.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that's not the time and place. Like that's a hot button
Wait,
topic.
hold up. Wait, there's a better time and place to discuss a hot take hockey take than a hockey
Marner's not
pod?
going anywhere. That's the take.
100%, yeah.
Marner's not going anywhere, and anyone that says otherwise should just shut up.
Yeah, this is not the radio.
I agree. He's not going anywhere.
It's not the
But
radio.
It's
This is
not will he? It should he?
I think the team is now last year, when the team wasn't balanced enough, where we didn't have a defenseman, it made a little bit more
Oh my
sense.
god,
but
you guys are so dumb. It's going to
TJ
be the
Brody-
exact same thing.
No.
And you know I'm right. You guys know I'm right. The outcome will be the same.
No,
I think you build a
winning
roster.
the
You
cup.
build around your skill, but you also you have some jam guys to play. The Leafs didn't have jam guys to play. They had 4 lines of like borderline trying to score guys, and you can't win that way.
Austin Matthews is winning the Conn Smythe in 2021.
And
That's a hot take.
Thornton's gonna assist his way into the second round.
Yeah, that's all I got to say. Andrew, did you have one more thing you want to say? One more?
I got nothing. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Go Leafs, go. I mean, my hopes are low, but
Go Leafs, go.
Well, it was a question. Every year, it's a bit of an uncertainty.
Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, before we finish off today's episode, Andrew and I want to take some time just to discuss LeBron James officially winning his 4th ring with the Los Angeles Lakers this time.
All hail the king.
Yeah. Never doubt the king. We said that literally at the start of the summer.
We did, and then I doubted him, and then I believed him, and then I doubted him again, and I went back and forth like 6 times. I doubted him with the Blazers a little bit, and then I got.
Well, you never
worried.
doubted him. You just doubted the team.
Yeah, who knew Rondo and KCP were going to become superstars?
Well, I mean, I said this in the last basketball pod we did, but every single year there's always a story about a role player rising up to the occasion. Turns out it was KCP who, in the last 3 games of the series, had just an incredible impact, especially Game 5 and Game 6. I literally thought Game 5 was going to be like his hero moment. He made huge shots.
Yeah.
And then, actually made huge shots in Game 4 as well. What am I talking about? But in Game 6, like put up 17 points, I think. Overall in the series, I'm pretty sure he had like 77 points, and about 80% of those were in the last 3 games. So good for KCP. Makes all that overpaying that Clutch made the Lakers do worth it.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
Guess what? KCP's a free agent after the season.
He's going to get paid.
Yeah, by the Lakers.
Yeah, correct. I think Lakers come back with the same team. You think they do moves?
Yeah, I've been advocating for my Kyle Kuzma for Derrick Rose move for a little bit, and I think that makes sense.
Saw that. Yeah, that's true. I think Kuz sucked.
He is not, well, he's got talent. I mean, we've talked about this. He's got talent, but he doesn't work with that team because literally the positions he plays or would be good at playing is the positions that LeBron plays. And
I don't know who was worse. I don't know if Danny was worse or if Kuz was worse. Danny's awful.
If you had to guess right off the top of your head, what Danny Green shot from 3, percentage wise for the finals, what do you think he shot?
27%.
That's really good, actually. It was 28.9.
See, that's actually higher than I thought. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because I think he hit a couple down the stretch, which would have boosted his average a little bit, but it's irrelevant.
He was 11 for 38 for the entire series there. But yeah,
they're paying this guy $15 million next year.
Yeah, I was actually listening to the Hoop Collective, and Brian Windhorst was making a good point. Like, you know who else is going to get at least $15 million next year?
KCP. Yeah.
Because is that guy worse than Danny Green?
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
I mean,
and
he was at one point, but not anymore.
Yeah, and they have their bird rights, and this is what happens when you win a championship and you have some important role players that you don't really want to let go, especially the Lakers, who have not many other avenues to gain wings like that, other than the mid-level exception, I suppose. But the guy's definitely getting paid.
Yeah, I think Derrick Rose is definitely a Laker by the start of next season.
I would be willing to put a decent amount of money that he ends up being a Laker.
Yeah.
I think that just makes way too much sense.
For every team involved.
You mean just both parties?
Yeah. No, all the other teams too. They would really appreciate this trade happen. So KCP actually has a player option for $8.5 million. You say
he's
he
going to turn that
declines?
down. Yeah,
Okay.
I say he declines and like he re-ups.
Yeah.
But no, let's talk about just 2 things I want to hammer home. One, this is really historic. I talked about this a little bit last time, but the tandem of Anthony Davis and LeBron James being able to, throughout the playoffs, put over 25 points per game and over 50% from the field and win the championship. No other duo has ever done that. Like I talked about that earlier, and they succeeded in doing this. And this is unprecedented, literally unprecedented.
It's awesome when you can get all-time great stats because the rest of your team is all-time terrible.
They're all-time good enough. I don't know.
Just barely good enough. Like if Dragic didn't get hurt and Bam was at 100%, I still think the Lakers would have won. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I think it would have been
Miami
closer,
Heat,
but
I mean, the Miami Heat were at the end of their rope. They had a bunch of tough series throughout the Eastern Conference, and tip your cap to them. Like they really worked hard. They earned 2 really good wins. Jimmy Butler, everyone in the NBA respects him.
There is not a team that lost in the finals that has earned my respect more ever than this Miami Heat team. I'm very proud.
proud.
Well, I'm proud of the way they played. Like, just the grind it out,
Yeah,
underdog.
There's nothing to be ashamed of if you're a Miami Heat fan or player, I suppose, if you're listening to this. But
I could summarize so we left everybody at the pod after game 3. I could summarize
Yeah.
the next 3 games very, very easily. Ready for this? Okay. If you want to know what happened in game 4, just check game 2. If you want to know what happened in game 5, just check game 3. And if you want to know what happened in the clinching game 6, just check game 1. Very similar.
yeah, now the question going forward is, so LeBron has his 4th ring in 10 tries.
Which means absolutely nothing. Okay, hold up. What's better, 4 for 4 or 4 for 5?
4 for 4. It's better.
How? Because that means, no, assuming you play 5 seasons each, that means that at one point you didn't get there.
Okay, well, see, you didn't make that caveat. No, I know what you're saying. Like, I'm not going to get in that discussion about, like,
Who's better, Jordan or LeBron? That is the debate. 6
Well, yeah,
for
that
6
is the
is
debate. I
irrelevant if you didn't get there a 7th time.
That's the beauty about that debate, right? There's no really right answer. I think, like, if you really had to, like, split hairs and stuff, maybe Jordan had the higher peak. He hit a level that I don't know if LeBron ever reached in terms of, like, his ability to finish games and just be, like, that killer. But LeBron...
I don't understand that, though. Like, when he won that championship with Cleveland, when he came back...
Yeah, that was incredible.
You're telling me that peak wasn't a Jordan peak? I don't know what kind of advanced metrics they're using
You're
to
right.
like find Jordan a little bit higher, but like the eye test is there. I don't understand that. Not to mention like
They're
LeBron's
also
peak has
vastly
been forever.
different. They're also vastly different players. That's another
Yeah, they
thing.
are.
It's easy to compare, or easier to compare Jordan versus Kobe since they're the same mold of each other. But LeBron, like what he does on the court, I mean, he obviously does a lot of scoring, but it's so much different than what Jordan did on the court. I mean, he's so much more of a facilitator, so much more of the all-around game versus just the
Go-to scorer.
singular excellence that was Jordan, although he was a good defender as well.
Yeah, listen,
But-
as good as LeBron is, in the history of closers, if I need one bucket at the end of the game, I'm not going to LeBron, and here's why. It doesn't have to do with his stats, his closing stats, his clutch stats, because honestly, I think LeBron's, if you actually look at them, are pretty decent, like his game-winning shot, game-tying shots, as far as percentages versus Kobe and maybe Jordan. But the reason is LeBron just does not have the one-on-one moves that Kobe and Jordan did. He does not have the footwork. He does not have the handle. He does not have the arsenal. LeBron's got 2 moves. He's got the step back to his left, not even to his right. He's got the step back to one side, and he's got the I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to put my shoulder into you, and I'm going to try and go by you. Like, I get it. When you're like 6'8", 280, and you can run like a cheetah, I understand, like, you're going to gravitate to just beating guys your athleticism. I get it. But down the stretch, like, if they throw 3 guys at him, I'd rather see Jordan with the ball in his hands or Kobe with the ball in his hands than LeBron in that situation.
Well, LeBron half the time isn't even going to shoot. He's going to pass it
Right.
to the open guy.
Might work.
Danny Green with the brick. You know he
Danny
got death
Green.
threats for that, right?
Yeah, I sent them in.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I sent them.
At the Inquisitive Bro.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. I still don't forgive you for Game 6.
And this is why.
You die now.
Yeah.
Okay, can we just please finish on just talking about the playoff bubble as a whole and the Lakers just winning? Just like final thoughts. Just,
Yeah. Honestly, kudos to everybody involved in the bubble. I was super happy we had basketball to watch, regardless of whether there was fans or not. Do I think there'll be fans next season? No, I don't. I think we can see people playing in their home stadiums without fans, but I do not see people in the stands.
Yeah, I kind of have similar thoughts. I think like NBA did this very seamlessly, just like the NHL, which we talked about. And you really noticed it you really noticed the lack of fans when they actually got the trophy. I love how JR was the first one to actually grab it. Like, did the least.
Dude, before
picked
the
up the
buzzer
most.
even hit, somehow JR already had his shirt off.
Yeah, well, that's his MO. And he got the entire team to, like, get on it.
Yeah.
You saw, like, Caruso and Kuzma without their shirts during their post-game press conferences as well. But kudos to, like, the NBA and everyone involved. Like, this was really well done, and I was so happy to have basketball in my life again.
LeBron James, 4 down, 2 to go. We're catching Jordan. Later,
true.
everybody. Peace.